Welcome to another edition of the Breakthrough Podcast. I am your host, Reba, and on this podcast, I help you to try to have an aha moment or breakthrough on particular things that goes on in your life. I also help survivors of trauma, from domestic violence to childhood trauma. That's what I do. So I use my experiences on this podcast to help other people to have a breakthrough for their own lives. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for coming on this show. For my YouTube subscribers, thank you. We're picking up our subscribers. So you guys, you're doing the job I asked you to do. And the new listeners, please just go over to the YouTube page. It is the Breakthrough Podcast also. And just subscribe, like, or share. Do all three. It will help me to get this podcast out more on more platforms so we can get paid advertisement, guys. And I just thank you for listening. And with that being said, we'll just go right into it. This weekend, I always do a recap of my weekends, only to give you a little gist about me, a little something about me. My weekends are now, I know I said it in a couple of podcasts before, I actually work on weekends now. I got a new job in my career, and what I do now, so I work on weekends, not Sundays, but Saturdays. So my weekends go past pretty fast, so they're not exciting. But this year, I am so excited about this year only because all the things that I got going on, I got different projects God is telling me to do. And yes, guys, we are still fasting. We could talk about that. I'm going to go into that. So the weekend was pretty much simple. My son stayed home this weekend. So he had his friend over. I took him on a date. We talked about dating and some things he's encountering right now with, he's only a freshman in high school, guys, so he's young. With dating and some things he's encountering with, dating the opposite sex and all the necessary stuff we need to talk about with dating. He's not technically really allowed to date until he's 16, but kids are going to try to do what they want to do. But to me, technically, dating is you going on dates. He doesn't do anything of that. He just like girls, and they text each other and whatever else they see each other at school. We call that dating too. We go together. And we go together in high school. Like, y'all not going nowhere but to school and home. But whatever. I really enjoy having date nights with my son. We haven't had one in quite a while. And so it was a needed one. And I took him to Texas Roadhouse. And that was his first time being there. So it was an experience for him. And I enjoyed it. I haven't been to Texas Roadhouse in years because, as you guys know, I don't eat steak. So I don't eat beef at all. But it was a great Friday. And then Saturday, he had his best friend come over. And then Sunday. And then here goes Monday. So that was my weekend. But we're going to talk about a little recap of my fast from last week. And then we'll get into the podcast, which aligns, of course, all the time with what God tells me to talk to you about. Anybody that has ever done a fast, and I'm talking about spiritual fast, not the fasting for food, not the fasting for weight and fasting during the day and stuff like that. I'm talking about a spiritual fast. Whatever fast you do, it's going to be challenging and it's going to be hard. I am fasting coffee during this fast. I also fast. I deleted my Facebook app. And I necessarily didn't do my Instagram and my social medias because of my YouTube, because that's mostly where my business come from. I share my business on Facebook, but Facebook platform is a little different. So I don't get paid for Facebook yet. So I deleted them because I really don't need Facebook, but most of my engagements are on YouTube and Instagram. and now I'm doing TikTok. So, and I'm not on those as much as I should be, but Facebook, I found myself, I did Facebook because I found myself when I'm getting up in the morning, I'm getting ready to pray, or I'm getting up in the morning and I first check my phone, your thumb just goes to Facebook. I promise you, if you on Facebook, try it. I told my girlfriend last week, and she fasted Facebook too, because she did all social media, which I'm really proud of her. But she realized that she was on Facebook before she knew it. I was trying to check a bank account, and I realized I was on Facebook. It just happens. If you scrolling through social media, it's a norm that has to be stopped with me, because I got tired, because what it was doing is stopping me to not focus on what I had, the plan I had ahead. So I decided to delete Facebook. And like I said, it's not much engagement. I post on Facebook, but I don't get much engagement for my business on Facebook, so I don't really care. The only thing I do care about is my Facebook group. I actually coach the survivors domestic violence group on there, and I have 59 ladies in that group, and so I know my ladies miss me, but the ones that actually listen or are listening, they listen to the podcast and they listen to the YouTube, so they know. The ones that don't, then I'll be back when the 21 days is over. It's fine. My assistant does a great job, again, navigating that anyway. She does my pages and everything else, so she navigates that. So I'm not totally missing because she posts, for me. So that's that. But back to the fast. It wasn't hard for the Facebook thing because I just deleted the app. That wasn't hard. That's more of a mental thing. The coffee thing. Guys. I gotta say it again, guys. I literally have a coffee bar in my house, okay? It's actually in my front room, but it's going into my kitchen. But I have a coffee bar. Yes, a coffee bar. If anybody knows what a coffee bar is. And look it up. Pinterest have a lot of great of them. But, okay, I have a coffee bar in my house. So that shows you how much I'm addicted to coffee. Okay? So I love Jesus more than I love coffee. So we're fasting coffee. Last week was a little hard. Last week was a little rough because, of course, my new job and everything that I do, I drink coffee during the day. But so I transfer over to green tea. Green tea is healthier. Green tea is for your energy, your metabolism. It actually helps you lose weight, curb your appetites, all that great stuff. And then I'm doing matcha green tea on top of green tea. So I mix my green tea in the morning, my hot green tea with my matcha green tea. And anybody that knows about matcha green tea is more, gives you more energy. And usually you mix it with, either you can mix it with milk, you can mix it with water, but matcha green tea is thicker and it basically gives you the natural energy that coffee doesn't, because, coffee gives you energy, but you can have a crash. Green tea doesn't do that. So it's a good benefit of me drinking green tea, but I guess I tell you guys, I am tired of drinking green tea. I am Japanese green tea out. I am matcha green tea out. I promise you, I probably lost 10, 15 pounds just from last week alone. So that's my discipline. That is my accountability to myself. I'm continuing on. So we're in the second week. It's a 21-day fast. So we're in day 8, 9. Help me. But with that being said, I wanted to have more discipline and accountability. Actually, last week was a very rough week, but it was a blessed week, because I tell anybody that does a fast consistently, I love doing fast because it makes me a highlighter. And when I say highlighter, it means it enlightens me to hear from God more. And last week was a doozy. But last week, God confirmed some things with me in my personal life, and I was just really excited and happy about it once he confirmed some things and, hearing from him. So it actually makes me want to continue to do it more or whatever. I love coffee, yes, but at the same time, the coffee is not more important than my relationship with Christ. So just that simple. And that being said, we are just going to get right into the episode about accountability. Today's episode is who is holding you accountable. Now, I actually got this idea technically from this year. I decided to read more books. I told you guys last week I'm reading 10 books this year. So while I'm fasting, I'm doing more discipline and awareness of reading right before I go to bed, listening to my podcast, not my podcast, but personal podcast, and listening to things that does self-development, because this year I really feel like God is bringing awareness to everybody that 2023 is the year for me. That's my quote for the year, but I do think that's for everyone. He's bringing more awareness on what you need to do, whether it's business-wise, career-wise, having a relationship with him. This year, I really feel like we're digging deep in what our purpose is with God. So, personally, you're going to go on this journey with me, and I'm excited to take you on this journey with me because I'm very candid and I'm very open and vulnerable and transparent about my own journey that I'm doing with you guys. So, as I go on this journey, you will know step by steps of what God is doing in my life, in my personal life, my kids' life. And so I'm excited to share that with you guys. Who is holding you accountable? I kind of got this idea and this enlightenment from listening to a podcast that I was listening to last week. And it was talking about, it brought up this point a little bit, but it was basically talking about why things happen the way they happen. So I got this awakening from a podcast basically asking people about being honest about your truth, being more aware about your story, being aware of being verbal about your story. And that's what that's what I go by. And it was so funny that the guy was saying it, because that's what I teach my students, that our stories are not for us. And every trial and tribulation that we go through is not for us. It's for someone else. It's for us to use for the glory of God, for God to know that we're using us for a purpose. And that for others to know the God that's in us regardless of what we're going through. Christian or non-Christian, our stories are valuable. So, in that podcast, he talked about accountability, and it hit me because I was just like, yes. He talked about your friends holding you accountable, and he talked about when you tell your story, why it's so important to tell it and to bring accountability for what you do, what you slip up on, your wrongs, whatever. And it brought me to just write a whole bunch of notes. And so pretty much we're just going to talk about accountability and why. Who's going to hold you accountable? Or do you have someone that holds you accountable? Let's just start with that. Accountability could be different things for people. Accountability for self, accountability for others, and accountability for God. Those are three different accountabilities. But we're going to talk about accountability for self and wrap it up with God too. But there's a three different accountability. You can have accountability for yourself. You can have accountability for others. And you can have accountability from God. When you're accountable, accountability pretty much is being responsible to fulfill your duties, your obligations, and your word. Okay, so because I have a lot of notes, that's why I'm stopping, because I want to read my notes. But we're just going to go off the dome because I know what I want to say. So we're going straight from the dome, and we're going to read the notes as they go. One thing I love about this podcast, I can do what I want to do. So if you're listening and I'm pausing, and it is what it is. Okay? Accountability, like I said, is being responsible to fulfill your duties, your obligation, and your word. What I heard is sometimes in the relationships that we do too much in our relationships. We don't hear from God. when we need to go forward. And sometimes we don't have faith in troubled times. When you have good friendships and when you have good relationships, you're going to want to be held accountable. And that's what I want personally this year. I told, my personal story is today, I personally told 2 friends of mine because I want to be held accountable. My best friend and a good friend of mine that lives in Chicago, I told them that I want to be held accountable for everything that I say I do this year. I told them some goals of mine because accountability just don't have to be about your wrongs. Accountability could be about who's holding you accountable for what you do, what you said you was going to do with your life, your vision. So I told them, had a good conversation with both of them and told them I want to be accountable. You know, I don't want friends that I don't want to be accountable to, but I don't want friends that don't want to hold me accountable, and I don't want friends that don't want to be held accountable. Let's be real. Some of our friendships are trauma bond relationships, and I talked about that last year in a podcast. If you don't know what a trauma bond is, I'll explain it right now, but go listen to the podcast, Trauma Bond Relationships. That was one of my biggest podcasts that a lot of people listen to. And pretty much what a trauma bond relationship is, something that you guys have similar that is negative in common. So you get on the phone with your girlfriend, your best friends, whoever, and you ever realize you'll call that person that called you and it's all negative, or it's talking about, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, or he did this, and it turns into gossip. It turns into talking about someone, or it just turns into a negative conversation. And by the end of the conversation, and the end of the phone call, you got nothing accomplished. Nothing happened. You have nothing accomplished in the conversation but a trauma bond. And that's how y'all stay connected. Well, in the last few years, I've been realizing that some of my relationships that I had are trauma bonds. And we're going to talk about even intimate relationships are trauma bonds. Because some way, somehow, y'all stayed together or y'all got together with some trauma or something that brings y'all similarly together. With me, I'll say one of my relationships I was in, personal relationships I was in, is because I'm always a person that wants to help. And so as that person always needed me, I always helped. So that kept our relationship, stayed in the relationship longer than what we should have, because I wasn't focusing on the needs that I had for myself. I was always focusing on that person's needs, and every time they needed help, and because I am who I am a solution-driven person. Anybody that knows me and you're going to call me, you're going to get a solution. I remember one time, let's bring up a good example. My mom called, and my mother, you know how all mothers are. They naggy, they talk a lot, they whatever. But my mother has a great conversation. But sometimes my mother could complain a lot about she is a worry word. That's what I call her. Like, my mother worries a lot, and it comes from her mother. And I'm trying my best to not do the same thing and pass that down as a generational trauma to myself and my kids. So when she does call, it's like using, she'll complain about something, whatever. I remember one time, this was a couple of years ago, she said, I knew I couldn't call you and talk about it because you don't want to hear that. And it was just like, it made me laugh, but it made me like, so is that a bad thing? But at the same time, that could be a trauma bond because you're breaking a trauma bond, because I don't want you just to call me with bad news. I don't want you to just call me just because something happens negative and then we're talking about that. I have to have a solution. So I'm the kind of person now, and I'm working on more. If someone do call me and they're pretty much venting, you have to ask, is it for advice? Is it for you just listening? Or do you want me to say something back? because sometimes people just want to vent to get it off, which I have had the moments. And then sometimes I be like, yeah, I need some advice. Especially with my spiritual father. He's a big person that he holds me accountable. So I have 3 people. I also, this year, I'm getting another coach, but I have a coach. They hold me accountable. You could have accountability for different things, spiritual, business, personal. So I have accountability in different areas. My friends that I talk about, those are more personal. My coach is business. My dad is spiritual. And then sometimes some of the accountability partners can work all 3 of areas that you want. But you just got to know who can actually hold you accountable. You want someone that will hold you to your word and not micromanage you when you do wrong, but keep you afloat, because you don't need micromanagers. You need people that's going to beat you over the head and say, well, you said you wasn't going to do that and you did that. No, you need someone to say what I want to be for other people. Well, remember, we're working on this year, or we're working on that. You make it personal, like you're in the journey with them, even though you might not be doing the same thing they're doing. You make it personal so the person can feel like, okay, you know what? I did say I was going to remember you said. Or you could call and you and your friend talking on the phone and say, how's the business idea going? How's the book? How many books have you read this week? Or are you still on the first book? That's what holding people accountable. You don't have to be people over here to say, you said you was going to read 10 books this year. You ain't read one right now. That's not how it works. If you're going to be a great accountability partner, you have to know how to take the journey with them. I love talking to my spiritual father because I talk about him a lot, because my spiritual father has been in the dirt with me and in my high times. But I know that he's going to hold me accountable for everything I say. And he's perfect for listening to daughter. He'll take a pause after I do a whole rant. So you want me to talk? I love that he does that, because I'll be like, yeah, I wasn't telling you just to tell you. I don't be knowing, okay? But in that midst of that talking, he holds me accountable for what I said. He'll check me on what I said. And I promise you, he's probably the only one that could check me the way he does, where I know he's checking me, but it's out of love. And I know that man loves me. So, and my spiritual father live in Tennessee, okay? So, but I know he loves me. He can check me and it'd be like, okay, you right. Or he gives me something to think about. Or I'd be still stubborn and be like, dang, I know he right. I do got to do that. You know what? Or I run an idea past him that he never thought of before. He'd be like, okay. But at the same time, to tell you the truth, I hold my spiritual father accountable. He's on this, he's trying to get his health together, his weight loss journey. He had a couple of heart issues in the past or whatever, having heart surgery and stuff like that. And my spiritual father is trying to get his health together. So my spiritual father calls me, just like last week, he called me on what he should do with this chicken and everything else. A lot of people call me about food because they know that I'm like a health nut with the food game. Like, really, I know how to take food the same way people want to cook it, and I make it flavorful and healthy, and you won't gain any weight. Just like yesterday, my best friend came over right before he got to go to work. I made fried cabbage. I made catfish, garlic bread, and what else was it? Oh, fried cabbage, garlic bread, and spaghetti, and Italian spaghetti. And I made all that. And that may sound unhealthy, but I promise you, the way I cook it and the way I make things, it's a better way now. It's 2023, like I said. People have no excuses to eat unhealthy when there's better ways to eat. And it don't make you feel full. It don't make you feel sluggish. But that's a whole nother thing. I hold my spiritual father accountable for what he eats. Like, he'll tell me a story like, yeah, this weekend I was tired. What you eat? And he'll start laughing. What you been eating? Have you been on your plan? Because I don't call it diet because it's a lifestyle. You have to change your lifestyle before you eat. Have you been on your plan? Have you been sticking to what you said you was going to do? He just laugh. When I know he laughs, I know he hasn't. Okay? But that's what I'm talking about. He holds me accountable. I hold him accountable. I want him to live long. I want him to see me get married again. I want him to walk me down the aisle. We got a goal at the end of the day. Okay? So, he holds me accountable. Someone holding you accountable and walks alongside you helps you to have integrity in what you're saying you do. It could be a friend, like I said, a family member, or even a spiritual mentor. Accountability, create a circle. I have a circle, of course, I told you. There's my spiritual father, my best friend, and my close friend, like a sister. Those are my 3 different people that's in my life. Accountability is a sense of awareness of what you're doing. Even while I'm doing this fast, I have to have accountability while I'm doing this fast. No one's watching me. Nobody's saying, besides God, and he's more important than anybody. I could tell you guys I ain't drinking coffee all day, and I'm fasting coffee. What if I was drinking coffee right now? Even though I got this nasty, bland, white tea next to me, guys. I'm holding myself accountable, spiritually. Because that's what I need to do. I want to hear from God. I know that coffee is a discipline of mine. Coffee is an addiction of mine. Because, yes, when you fast anything that you're addicted to, like coffee, the first 2 days, I had migraines out the wazoo. Of course, you know your body is fiending for the coffee, so it's getting off the coffee. So, first 2 days, I had tremendous headaches. It was horrible. But after that, I haven't had any headaches. Drinking more water, my intake of water, and I'm doing what I have to do to be accountable for myself, because this year I do want to hear from God. I do this every year, but of course accountability is important to me for my spiritual awareness, for myself, and for other people around me. My kids are watching me, to understand that my mom's doing the fast. My son is 15. He could do fast, but just in case he want to do a fast later on, he understand what the discipline is. This year, I told you guys, my word for the year for me is discipline. That's my personal word. The word for the year for the podcast is blessings and manifestations. Let's not forget that, because we are manifesting what we're seeing in our prayer lives and what we're doing, and asking God to reveal the blessings. That's what manifestation and blessings is. But I am creating the discipline. I'm creating the discipline and the accountability with reading the books, with listening to self-development. If your personal self-development is not right, nothing else is going to be right. I don't care if you have a business. I don't care if you have a job, a career. Everything falls in line with one or the other, okay? So if your self-development is off, your career going to be off. Your mind's going to be off. Your focus is going to be off. You have to work on the accountabilities that you have. I'm actually holding my best friend accountable for things that he's doing business-wise that he has to do this year to create his own business and start his own business. But I'm also holding him accountable for things that he has with his health. Okay, so we got to, manage. We got to budget. We got to do a lot of things to hold each other up. We want to esteem each other. We want to see each other succeed. We want to see each other to see where God has us and taking us to the next journey, guys. So I want to put on your head, your mind, to this week, who are holding you accountable? Who do you talk to every day? Think about at least, I don't think everybody talk 5 people, because I don't talk 5 people every day. 5 people you talk to out the week, regularly. I'll give you 3. Because since I have 3, I'll give you 3. What are your conversations? What are you talking about? What do you do? Who's holding you accountable? Even if you don't talk to no one. Because you could say, I don't really talk to anybody. I'm too busy. I have a job. Blah, blah, blah. Excuses. Are you holding yourself accountable for the things you want to do? I had my students last week do the vision boards. I did my vision board as I told you, but my students do the vision boards. They bring them, well, the week before last, they bring them to class tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Wednesday. And so, but those things on that vision board is what held you accountable. My vision board is in my room. So when I wake up, I know I have accountability. I need accountability for what I said I was going to do on that vision board. And certain things may not get done because at the same time, it has to align with God. So I'm not doing anything that God is not allowing me to do, manifesting me to do, and blessing for me to do. But at the same time, I'm not just doing nothing and saying, oh, I said I was going to read, but I ain't read nothing. The same way that last year I read 5 books. This year, I'm writing 2 more books. I'm still writing my books right now. They probably won't be out until next year. This year, I'm actually taking my time because I'm writing 2 different books at the same time of what God is blessing me with. I'm always going to write. I told you guys that before. I'm always going to be a writer. I'm always going to write books. And they're all self-help books because what I do and what I feel like God has placed me and where he has placed me, I want accountability. I want awareness. And I want to just help people become better people and Christians because I am a Christian. I don't do anything without the Holy Spirit guiding me. Sometimes I do, but I try not to. So being aware of what I do, I go through trials and tribulations just like you every day. I go through a lot of things. The beginning of this year, just the first 2 weeks the first week was death on wheels. I don't know what was happening, but God was doing a whole transition. As soon as the new year happened, a lot of stuff happened to me that I'm going to talk about later on, but I had to get through it. It was like literally January 2nd, a lot of stuff hit. And I had to deal with it right away. And I felt like, okay, so that's how we're going to start the year out, God. But I still have to be accountable for what I was doing. I still have to be accountable for what my goals were, what my vision is, what God has given me this year. And I'm here to help anyone and everyone. So guys, please recognize who is holding you accountable. This week, I want you to think about the next 3 people that you have. What are y'all talking about? Are y'all trauma-bound relationships? Are they holding you accountable for the things you say? Are you holding them accountable? And then if not, have those questions, have those conversations like I had with my best friends. I want you to hold me accountable this year. And then you go into that. It don't have to be something hard. I said I was going to do this. Just check in on me and make sure I'm doing it. That's what I have for you today. I love that you guys listen to this podcast. Please share. If you're listening on YouTube, please go to YouTube and share. If you listen on Anchor or Apple, you can share on Anchor and 5-star it, rate it, give me a comment, review it, tell me what you like, what you don't like. I'm here for it all. Until next time, I will see you guys back on the Breakthrough Podcast next week. Thank you for listening.